Shishimad, Paramahamsa, Hari Vrajacharya, Astarsada Shishimad is Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Swami Shishimad Paramahamsa, Hari Vrajacharya, Astarsada Shishimad is Divine Grace Bhakti, Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki, Nam Acharya Shaharidas Thakur Ki. Friends of Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Veda Gadadhar, Shri Dasani Gaur Bhakti Ki, Shri Radha Krishna, Gopa Gopinath, Shyamakunda, Radhakunda, Giri Govardhan Ki, Damadam Ki, Maya Puram Ki, Jagannath Puridam Ki, Gangamaya Ki, Yamunamaya Ki, Tulasi Devi Ki, Bhakti Devi Ki, Samarita Bhakti, Gaura Premanandi, all glorious to the assembled devotees. All glorious to the assembled devotees. All glorious to the assembled devotees. All glorious to Shri Guru and Guru. Hare Krishna, good morning, bonjour. So, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, which is entitled Liberation. Chapter 9, Dynasty of King Amshiman, text 29. And, let's see.
9:29.
9:29. 9:29. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 We have a 6-line verse today. Would I like a glass of water? Yeah, you should bring a glass of water because you never know. So we'll go through the words. Eshaha,
Yeshaha,
He, Brahmanaha,
Brahmanaha,
Vidvan,
Vidvan,
Tapaha,
Tapaha,
Shila,
Shila,
Guna Anvitaha.
Gunamavitaha.
Actually, I could say something about Shila. Shila, as it said here, means good behavior. So there's another word, Shila, which means rock or stone. So it's not really Govardhan Shila, although Govardhan does have good behavior, being Krishna himself. But it's Govardhan Shila. Guna Anvitaha.
Guna Anvitaha.
Arirada Ishu.
Arirada
Brahma.
Brahma.
Mahapurushaha.
Mahapurusha.
Samyatam.
Samamantam.
Sarvabhuta.
Sarvabhuta.
Atmabhavena.
Atmabhavena.
Bhuteshu.
Bhuteshu.
Antarhitam.
Antarhitam.
Gunai.
Gunaya.
I offered to say something about pronouncing the Sanskrit, so maybe I'll just add a little bit to every class. There's 2 A's in Sanskrit. There's the A with the bar over it, which is pronounced ah, and the A without the bar, which is pronounced ah. And they both appear in the word Rama. And the A with the bar, the ah, is twice as long as the ah. So if you know that when you're chanting the verses, it works out better. And there's also, in addition to vowels being, some of them being twice as long as the other, there's syllables that are twice as long as the other. Even if they have a short vowel, they have 2 consonants in them, they're also twice as long. And not only is the ah twice as long as the but the other vowels that are longer, or the one that's written with the letter E, which is A, which is pronounced A, that's also twice as long as the and the U with a bar over it is twice as long as the too. And the compound vowels AI and AU, they're also twice as long as the So if you know that when you chant the verse, then you get the meter to it. It falls into place. So I will do the best I can. So like in the word Asha, the A is actually twice as long as the Sha. So it's Asha. And in like Brahmano, the A is twice as long as the and the O at the end is also twice as long as the A. So it's Brahmano. Esha hi Brahmano Vidvans.
Esha hi Brahmano Vidvans.
Tapa Shila Gunanvitaha.
Tapa Shila Gunanvitaha.
Harirada Vishwa Brahma.
Harirada Vishwa
Mahapurusha Samgitam.
Mahapurusha Samgitam.
Sarva Bhutatma Bhavena.
Sarva Bhutatma Bhavena.
Bhuteshvan Taritam Guna.
Bhuteshvan Taritam Guna.
So most of you know that if you have like a word that ends with V, you put the V on the beginning of the next word. And it sounds better. And if it ends in Y, which we don't have here, you do the same thing. Otherwise, if you pronounce it separately, you end up with extra syllables. Utesh Pantaritam Gunai. Sorry, I'm doing the last time. Utesh Pantaritam Gunai. Esha hi Brahmano Vidvans.
Esha hi Brahmano Vidvans.
Tapashila Gunanvita.
Tapashila Gunanvita.
Hariradaya Yeshu Brahma.
Hariradaya Yeshu Brahma.
Mahapurusha Samgitam.
Mahapurusha Samgitam.
Sarva Bhutatma Bhavena.
Sarva Bhutatma Bhavena.
Bhuteshvan Taritam.
Bhuteshvan
Esha hi Brahmano Vidvans.
Esha hi Brahmano Vidvans.
Tapashila Gunanvita.
Tapashila Gunanvita.
Hariradaya Brahma.
Hariradaya Yeshu Brahma.
Mahapurusha Samgitam.
Mahapurusha Samgitam.
Sarva Bhutatma Bhavena.
Sarva Bhutatma Bhavena.
Bhuteshvan Taritam Gunai.
Bhuteshvan Taritam Gunai.
Thanks.
Esha hi Brahmano Vidvans.
Esha hi Brahmano Vidvans.
Tapashila Gunanvitaha.
Tapashila Gunanvitaha.
Hariradaya Yeshu Brahma.
Hariradaya Yeshu Brahma.
Mahapurusha Samgitam.
Mahapurusha Samgitam.
Sarva Bhutatma Bhavena.
Sarva Bhutatma Bhavena.
Bhuteshvan Taritam Gunai.
Bhuteshvan Taritam Gunai. Esha hi Brahmano Vidvans.
Esha hi Brahmano Vidvans.
Tapashila Gunanvita.
Tapashila Gunanvita.
Hariradaya Ariradhya Shishur Brahma
Ariradhya Shama
Mahapurusha Samanditam
Mahapurusha Samhitam
Sarva Bhutatma Bhavena
Sarvabhutatma Bhavena
Bhuteshvantarhitam Gune
Bhuteshvantarhitam Gune.
Esha hi Brahmano Vidvans
Esha hi Brahmano Vidvans
Vashila Gudadvita
Shalashilanandita
Aridashishu Brahma
Ariradhya
Mahapurusha Samhita
Mahapurusha Samhita
Sarvabhutama Bhavena
Sarvabhutatma Bhavena
Bhuteshvantarhitam Gune
Bhuteshvantarhitam Gune.
Anybody else?
Esha hi Brahmano Vidvans
Esha hi Brahmano Vidvans
Tatashila Gunam
Mahapurusha Samhita
Sarvabhutatma Bhavena
Sarvabhutatma Bhavena
Bhuteshvantarhitam Gune
Bhuteshvantarhitam Gune.
Ishaha.
Ishaha.
This.
This.
He.
He.
Indeed.
Indeed.
Brahmanaha.
Brahmana.
Qualified Brahmana.
Qualified Brahmana.
Vidvan.
Vidwan.
Learned in Vedic knowledge.
Learned in Vedic knowledge.
Tapaha.
Tapaha.
Austerity.
Austerity.
Shila.
Shila.
Good behavior.
Good behavior.
Anvitaha.
Gunanvitaha.
Endowed with all good qualities.
Endowed with all good qualities.
Aridada Shishu.
Aridadashu.
Designed to be engaged in worship.
Desiring to be engaged in worship.
Brahma.
Brahma.
Supreme Brahman.
Supreme Brahman.
Mahapurusha.
Mahapurusha.
Supreme Person.
Supreme person.
Krishna.
Krishna.
Sangitam.
Sangitam.
Known as.
Known as.
Sarvabhuta.
Sarvabhuta.
Of all living entities.
Of all living entities.
Atmapadena.
Atmapadena.
As the Super Soul.
As the Super Soul.
Uteshu.
Uteshu.
In every living entity.
In every living entity.
Antaritam.
Antaritam.
Within the core of the heart.
Within the core of the heart.
Gunahi.
Gunahi.
By qualities.
By qualities.
Translation. So this is the Brahmana's wife speaking to the Rakshasa, trying to convince him not to eat her husband. Here is a learned, highly qualified Brahmana engaged in performing austerity and eagerly desiring to worship the Supreme Lord, the Super Soul, who lives within the core of the heart in all living entities. Please repeat. Here is a learned, highly qualified Brahmana,
Highly qualified Brahmana.
engaged in performing austerity
Engaged in performing austerity.
and eagerly desiring to worship
And eagerly desiring to worship
the Supreme Lord,
the Supreme Lord.
the Super Soul,
Super Soul.
who lives within the core of the heart
Who lives within the core of the heart.
in all living entities.
All living entities.
Report by Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. The wife of the Brahmana did not regard her husband as a superficial Brahmana, who was called a Brahmana merely because he was born of a Brahmana family. Shri Shri Radha Persi's Bar Ki Jai. Gurdwara Sri Radha Bhavani Ki Jai. Shri Nitai Sachi Sri. Make sure we offer obeisances to Lord Balaram, otherwise we don't know what will happen to us. Rather, this Brahmana was actually qualified with the Brahminical symptoms. Yasya ya lakshanam proktam. Srimad Bhagavatam 7:11-35. The symptoms of a brahmana are stated in the Shastra. Samudama tapa shocham shantir arjavam evacha jnanam vijnanam astikyam kama svabhavatam. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, wisdom, knowledge, and religiousness. These are the qualities by which the brahmanas work. Gita 18:42. Not only must a brahman be qualified, but he must also engage in actual brahminical activities. Simply to be qualified is not enough. One must engage in a brahmana's duties. The duty of a brahmana is to know the Param Brahma, Krishna. From Brahma, from Dhamma, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan. Bhagavad Gita 10:12. Because this brahmana was actually qualified and was also engaged in brahminical activities, Brahma karma, killing him would be a greatly sinful act, and the brahmana's wife requested that he not be killed. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Kalpakavishta, Kripa Sindhuvishta, Patitanam Pavanam, Vaishnadeya, Namo Namaha. So there's different things that could be said. Prabhupada referred to one Bhagavatam verse, so I thought I'd read that verse in purport too, because it's related. There's this phrase that Prabhupada quoted, Yasya ya lakshanam proktam, which is from Srimad Bhagavatam 7:11-35. And that's a very important verse, because it says, if one shows the symptoms of being a brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, or shudra, as described above, even if he has appeared in a different class, he should be accepted according to the symptoms, those symptoms of classification. So that's an important idea, because many people have a misunderstanding that you can be born into a particular social class, which is called the caste system. And some people consider the Hindu religion primitive because they have this caste system by birth. But actually, the caste system isn't by birth. As Prabhupada mentions in the purport here, so I'll begin reading the purport. So the purport to that verse is, herein it is clearly stated by Narada Muni that one should not be accepted as a brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, or shudra according to birth. Well, although this is going on now, it is not accepted in the Shastras. And he quotes Bhagavad Gita, Shatu varnyam maya shristam guna karma vibhagasha. Thus the four divisions of society, brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, and shudra, are to be ascertained according to qualities and activities. So the class divisions are meant to be based on qualities and activities, not on birth. So, although we hope to convince everybody about pure devotional service, some people may not be ready to hear that. But we can defend our scriptures and the Hindu tradition by explaining to them how that this caste system that's going on in India is actually not based on the revealed literatures. It's actually a perverted manifestation of a reasonable system. And the reason it gets degraded is the people in the higher classes, they want to have the benefits of being in the higher classes without actually having the qualities or being engaged in the activities that they're supposed to have and they're supposed to be doing. So we can see, especially in this age of Kali, how it could become degraded. So the people wanted to be brahmanas and get charity given to them just because their father was a brahmana. So that is a very foolish idea, and there's different analogies that can be shown to make it clear how foolish it is. Suppose your father is a brain surgeon. Does that mean you can open a clinic and start operating on people's brains? Even though you didn't go to medical school, or you didn't act as an intern, you didn't get certified? Would you want to go to such a brain surgeon? Oh yeah, my father's a brain surgeon. I can do your operation. So it's a completely foolish idea. Nobody would want to go to such a brain surgeon. In the same way, no one should accept somebody who's a brahmana just because their father's a brahmana. So continuing this purport from the Bhagavatam, if one is born in a Brahmana family and has acquired the Brahminical qualifications, he is to be accepted as a Brahmana. Otherwise, he should be considered a Brahma Bandhu, which literally means friend of a Brahmana. Similarly, if a Shudra acquires the qualities of a Brahmana, although he was born in a Shudra family, he is not a Shudra. Because he has developed the qualities of a Brahmana, he should be accepted as a Brahmana.
Sure.
Krishna consciousness movement is meant to develop these Brahminical qualities. So it said that the qualities of the Brahmana are the qualities of one in the mode of goodness. And the qualities of the Kshatriya are the qualities of one in the mode of passion. The qualities of the Vaishya are mixed passion and ignorance, and the qualities of the Shudra are in the mode of ignorance. So this practice of devotional service that we're engaged in performing is purifying, as it's described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srinvatam Svakata Krishna Punyashavana Kirtana Hridaya Tostoya Bhadvana Vidana Sritam. Now Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, supersonic in everyone's heart, he when one engages in his chanting his glories, which are themselves virtuous, he purifies one's heart from all material contamination. And then it continues. Nasta Parveshvaladareshanditam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavata Yutama Shloke Bhakti Bhagavata Naishti. By rendering service to the pure devotee and by regularly hearing classes in the Srimad Bhagavatam, practically all its troublesome to the heart becomes completely destroyed, and the irrevocable service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes established in the heart. And then the next verse, Tadara just mo bhava kama lobadayas tere taina labadams titam sabe prasidati. At the time the love and service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, lust, desire, and hankering disappear from the heart, and the devotee becomes established in goodness and he becomes happy. So that explains how by engaging in devotional service we can come up to the mode of goodness, which is the status of a bhava. So if we perform the devotional service enthusiastically and we don't commit any offenses, then we will automatically, by the purifying power of the devotional service, come up to the Brahminical platform. Actually, that verse was quoted from Brahma, from Dhamma, Pavicham Paramam Bhavan. Pavicham Paramam Bhavan means you are the supreme pure. So because Krishna is the supreme pure, when we associate with Krishna by chanting his name or engaging in the service of his deity form, or by taking his prasadam, we become purified. And we become purified specifically from the lower modes of passion and ignorance, to come up to the platform of goodness. And if we keep going, we come up to Vishuddha Sattva, pure goodness. So, regardless of the community in which one was born, one develops the qualities of a Brahmana, who should be accepted as a Brahman. and then he may be offered the order of sannyas. That's another important point, that we're not supposed to take sannyas unless we're established as a brahmana, which means we have to be in the mode of goodness, because the mode of goodness is all about acting out of duty, acting with control of the senses, and not acting out of material gain, which is the mode of passion. So one has to be fixed in that conception of sense control, mind control, the qualities of a brahmana in order to be successful as a sannyasi. And if you're not, you may turn into a bogus sannyasi because your mind and senses will be carried away because you're not really established in the mode of goodness. So, continuing. Unless one is qualified in terms of the Brahminical systems, one cannot take sannyas. So actually, although so many rules and regulations are there for somebody who's an aspiring sannyasi, the real qualification is brahmana. The Prabhupada's revealing to us here is they have to have the qualities of a brahmana, which we read earlier. From the purport to today's verse. So continuing, designating a person, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, birth is not the essential symptom. This understanding is very important. Here Narada Muni distinctly says that one may be accepted according to the caste of his birth if he has the corresponding qualifications, but otherwise he should not. One who has attained the qualifications of a Brahmana, regardless of where he was born, should be accepted as a Brahmana. Similarly, if one has developed the qualifications of Chandala, regardless of where he was born. So, another thing, people deprecate Hinduism because they see it as the worship of many gods, which they consider primitive. These people, they worship sun gods and moon gods. But actually in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, in at least a couple places, he recommends not worshiping demigods. And in 9:23 says, those who worship the demigods, they actually worship me alone, but in the wrong way. So in this scripture that anyone who's a Hindu will accept Bhagavad Gita, this worship of demigods is actually condemned. So Bhagavad Gita condemns the caste system by birth, and it also condemns the worship of many demigods. So we can clear up those illusions that people have by which they object to Hinduism and groups that are based on Hindu scriptures, Krishna consciousness. So I was thinking we could go down, we could talk about the different Brahminical qualities, which are mentioned in today's verse. Peacefulness. So peacefulness is important because there's an understanding that it's the cause of the other qualities. If you're sometimes it's shama. Shama is also described as control of the mind. So unless your mind is under control, how are your senses going to be under control? So therefore, shama, control of the mind, comes before dhamma, control of the senses. And unless you have control of the mind and the senses, how are you going to perform austerities, tapa? So there is a logical order to have them mentioned. So we actually, in this Krishna consciousness movement, we practice these things in different ways. We practice control of the mind when we chant japa. At least we're supposed to be practicing control of the mind. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 6:26, Yato yato nischalati manas chanchalamasta tastato niyamye tad atmaneva vishamnayet. Wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly bring it back under the control of the self. Sometimes we teach classes on meditation. So that's the big verse in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna is actually explaining how to meditate. Wherever the mind wanders, bring it back under the control of the self. And but the business of the self is to engage in the service of Krishna. This describes Jiva Swapoy, Krishna and Nitidas. Our position as Jivas is to engage in the service of Krishna. So that's the when we're acting under the control of the self, we're engaging in devotional service. So we practice this control of the mind when we japa, and we're also supposed to be thinking of Krishna all the time. There's that verse that goes, Smartavya Satatam Vishnu. One should always think of Lord Krishna. He's Smartavya Najatushit. One should not forget him at any time. Sarve Vidi, all the prescriptions, the shade, I'm sure, and the prohibitions. Itayo Eva Kinkara, they're servants of these two principles. So we have sense control, we follow these four regular principles, which all involve control of the senses. And that's also considered austerity too. Our practice of purity consists of purity of the mind and purity of the body. Sochan is also described as cleanliness. So we cleanse the body by taking showers every day. One purport says a brahmacharya should take one shower, grahastha should take 2 showers, and sannyasi should take 3 showers. So I asked my guru how many showers I should take. He said, you should take 2 showers, at least. So he talks about also in the early days that when in 26 Second Avenue, he had his own apartment, and because people were taking 2 showers a day, he had his bathroom was regularly in use. All the other people who didn't have such facilities for using his shower. And tolerance. We're supposed to practice tolerance, and we know that, as Lord Chaitanya said, Shnadhapi sunichena Toror eva sishana. Toror eva sishana means we should be more tolerant of a tree. Toror means of a tree. Sishana means tolerant. So, and then tolerance, there's one nice Swami in the UK named Dayananda Swami. He likes to make the point that the first thing that Krishna tells Arjuna to do is to be tolerant. Matra sparshas tukonte ashitoshna sukadukha. Agama payanot. It comes to tiksha shravaj. The first things he says are just instructions in philosophy. You're not your body, your soul transmigrates through different bodies. None of us here are our bodies. But then in the fourth instruction tells because you're not your body, you have to tolerate all these dualities of the body, heat, cold, honor, dishonor, whatever. So Krishna preaches tolerance, and when he comes with Lord Chaitanya, he continues to preach tolerance. So tolerance is very important. We can imagine we're a highly elevated devotee if we're not tolerant, but we can only imagine it. It's not a fact. You really have to practice tolerance. And if it's also tolerance is also required for compassion, because if we're always worried about the condition of our body, we won't have time to worry about benefiting other people. We're always worried about the heat or cold of our body, or this or that, or whether people are properly honoring us, or different things. Then we won't have time to worry about the welfare work we're supposed to be doing, distributing books, chanting Hare Krishna, making prasad, distributing prasad. Because we'll be worried about whether we're being properly honored, and whether our body's too hot or too cold, or we have the right amount of prasad, or we don't have the right amount of prasad. To a certain point, everything may not be right, but we have to tolerate it so we can go on and do our service. Because this is a world of duality, and there's always going to be duality. So what's interesting is that the last 8 verses of the 12th chapter, so much about it is tolerating dualities. Ya narishti nadresti nasotati naghamsati one who doesn't desire lament, to rejoice, or doesn't, one who's equal to friends and enemies, one who's not disturbed by heat and cold. So many qualities are mentioned, and Krishna says, all these people are dear to me. These people are completely unaffected by the material dualities. These people are the people who are dear to me. Because they actually understand they have nothing to do with the body, nothing to do with this world, actually. Because Krishna is Satchidananda, completely spiritual. And because we're spiritual, we're part and parcel of Krishna. We're also Satchidananda. We're supposed to be experiencing the eternality, knowledge, and this. Because we're identifying with our body, we're experiencing that heat, cold, happiness, distress, honor, and dishonor, instead of eternity, knowledge, and this. So we have to practice tolerance if we hope to ever attain spiritual form. So honesty is very important. There's that Leela, this one person wanted to be initiated, and his guru wanted to find out whether it's really a brahmana. So he asked the boy to ask his mother, and if he was born in a brahmana family, and he asked the boy to ask his mother, but his mother was not completely chaste, so she didn't actually know who the boy's father was. So she said she didn't know. So the boy told his prospective guru that he didn't actually know. So because he was so honest, that's a very embarrassing thing to say. I don't know who my father is. I don't know who there's. But because he answered in a very straightforward way, he realized you really are a brahmana. Because you said the truth, you didn't make up some story, So he initiated him. Wisdom, knowledge, and religiousness. So, Jnanam and Vijnanam is the Sanskrit. And Prabhupada usually translates Jnanam as theoretical knowledge, and Vijnanam is practical realization. And so Brahmana has to have both. He has to know theoretically that he's not his body. He has to realize he's not his body. He has to theoretically know that he's an eternal servant of Krishna, and he has to practically know he act on the platform of eternal servitor of Krishna. Religiousness, you have to be religious to be a Brahmana. Astikya. So we're supposed to be developing these qualities by our practice of devotional service, and we can see if we are making progress, if these qualities are increasing. I know I'm more clean than I used to be. I'm not clean compared to a lot of people, but I'm a lot more clean than I used to be. I always leave the sink clean after I use it, and I always leave the toilet clean after I use it. And when I do my pujari work, I always make sure I wash everything, clean the counter, put everything away. Whereas I was less clean when I was younger. So my cleanliness is gradually increasing. And I'm more austere also than I used to be. I get by less hours of sleep than I used to, which is an austerity. But so many Goswamis, they only slept 2, 3, or 4 hours. And it's actually recommended that we sleep less. It's interesting, a lot of people are attached to going to sleep early, but Prabhupada never said to go to sleep early, just said to sleep less. That's a funny thing. And I don't know if you're here when Shruti Kirti said something that was really funny. He said, we imitated Srila Prabhupada in whatever he did, except getting up early. That was really funny. So we're actually supposed to be decreasing it. It's like one where Prabhupada talks about reducing eating and sleeping making and defending to zero. It's supposed to be gradually becoming more renounced. So then we're also supposed to be engaged in Brahminical activity. So everyone who's a Brahmana, they should do at least one arati. Otherwise, take your thread back. So these, so Prabhupada wanted to establish the Varnashram system. He said at the end that that was 50% of his work, because not everyone's ready to accept pure devotional service, as he found out that so many people he gave sannyas to weren't able to maintain their vows, which means they weren't even in the mode of goodness. So he was enthusiastic about teaching Varnashram. He was on his way to Gita Nagari to demonstrate living in a rural community and practicing cow protection. But he was so sick that he couldn't make it past the UK, and he came back to India and left his body. So he was hoping in 76 to go to Gita Nagari and show by example about how to live in simple life centered around cow protection and communal culture. So if you can create a class of brahmanas, then you can recreate a whole society, because the brahmanas teach the other members of society what their duties are. So some people deprecate Varnashram, some devotees deprecate Varnashram, because in the conversation with Nanda Roy and Lord Chaitanya, Lord Chaitanya rejects performing one's Varnashram duty as offering to Krishna. Is one of the suggestions that Nanda Roy gives. So they use that as an excuse to reject Varnashram. But Prabhupada didn't reject Varnashram, and there's many statements where he talked about the importance of Varnashram. And there has to be some ordering of society. And the best way to order society is the way that is recommended by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he's omniscient. We could dream up some way of organizing society, but it would never be as good as that it's envisioned by the Supreme Lord, who knows past, present, and future, and is complete with knowledge, and is also merciful and wants to benefit. So, as they contribute knowledge, and they get charity. And the Kshatriyas, they make sure people are engaged in their particular duties, and they make sure they're protected, because there's always a class of evil people who are very powerful, who harass innocent people. So the Kshatriyas protect. The word Kshatriya actually means protecting from hurt. Shat means hurt, and Trayati means to deliver. So it's meant to deliver human society from the hands of these cruel people who take pleasure in hurting innocent people. And you also make sure everyone's engaged. So they get tax revenue. They give out the land to the Vaishyas, and the Vaishyas are supposed to give a quarter of whatever they produce to the king, so they can run the kingdom. So then the Vaishyas, they do Krishi Goraksha Vanajam. Krishi is agriculture, Goraksha is cow protection. Say that Balaram symbolized the agriculture with his plow, and Krishna, the cowherd boy, symbolized cow protection, the ideal Vaishyas. And the Vanijam business, with the extra produce they have, and the extra milk products they have, they sell, and they make money to acquire the other things they need. So they get the price for their goods, and they maintain themselves. And the shooters, they just serve the higher three castes, and they get a place to stay, they get some clothes to wear, and they get some food to eat. And you don't give them money, because they'll just spend it on intoxication and illicit sex and degrade themselves. So the shooters, they weren't given a lot of money. They're in the mode of ignorance. Just like we don't give money to the people who we know are going to spend it on buying beers. So everybody contributed something to the society, and they got some way of sustaining themselves. And they're supposed to perform their duty as an offering to the Supreme Lord. And Krishna talks about that in verses 18, 45, and 46. Anyone can attain perfection by doing their own work. There's this beautiful verse, 1846. Let's say, let's start out. Yatha pravitir bhutanam yena sarvamitam tata svakarmanatam abhyacha siddham vinati manava. By worshipping the Supreme Lord who is the source of all beings, Yatha pravitir bhutanam yena sarvamitam, and who is all pervading, sarvamitam tata. Svakarmanatam abhyacha, by worshipping with one's own work, siddham vinati manava, a person enjoys perfection. So, and that's the perfect ashram system. And we can contribute to it by playing one of those roles, and also by being situated in one of the ashrams, either as a brahmachari, grahastha, vanaprastha, or sannyas. The duties of the ashrams are given in the literature, and the duties of the varnas. So we can look within ourselves and see which one we fit into and try to do it the best we can. And even if we can't, it's not a problem, because it's the age of Kali and people aren't doing things very nicely anyway. But even if we do it partially, if we do it as offering to Krishna, Krishna will be pleased with us. And we'll gradually become more and more expert, so we can do it better and better. In this way, anyone can help Prabhupada establish an ashram simply by performing the duties that apply to himself to the best of his ability. So it's always good to leave time for questions. So there's approximately between 6 and 7 minutes left. Does anybody have any questions or comments about brahmanas? Yes, sir, you're first.
So, about tolerance, we may face some situations where it seems difficult to overcome a situation and to tolerate it. It's above our capacities of the moment. So in this situation, what shall we do? The tendency can be to escape the situation,
Right.
or to try to eliminate the disturbance.
Right.
But yeah, what is the proper behavior for Vaishnava?
Well, we can always pray to Krishna for the strength to tolerate this. My dear Lord Krishna, you advise us in your Bhagavad Gita to tolerate these dualities, but I'm having a very difficult time. Please help me. There's this Leela where Prabhupada tells the person, just go up to the deity and say, my dear sir, this is the problem. And then present the problem, and Krishna will take care of it. There's one temple president, he was a former temple president of London, and when he, people would come to him with their problems. And when he had a problem he couldn't figure out, he would just send them down to the deity. Right? That's all that's practical, and we know that Krishna. And if you're offering prayers to Krishna, you're in a very auspicious state, because you're admitting that Krishna exists for one thing. You're admitting that Krishna is in a superior position. You're admitting that Krishna has the ability to help you, and you're admitting that he has the inclination to help you. He's Bhakti Vatsala, is very kind to his devotees. So that's very auspicious. And then also we can consult our authorities. We can present the situation to them and say, this is intolerable for me. What do you think? Because the opinions of the Vaishnavas who have been practicing longer than we are very valuable. We should always, before we do anything, we should always consult with the Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, make sure that we're acting according to Dharma. So it's always good to consult. Devaki was here recently and gave many classes, and one of our big things is mentorship. We should have people that who are looking over us. We can talk over challenging issues and decide strategies. But sometimes people they unilaterally, without consulting other people, make decisions that actually turn out to be really bad for themselves or for the society. Whereas if they just took the trouble to ask, people would have advised them not to do it, and they would have saved a lot of time or money, or wouldn't have hurt people. I had an experience yesterday when I told someone, if you make that decision, some of you will be angry with you. They made the decision anyway, and the person was angry with them. So what could I do? All I could say is, I could just advise them. You do that, so thing. Okay. So they did it anyway. So then so and so was angry with you. What can be done? But at least I shared my wisdom. It's interesting also the tolerance of the Brahmanas is different than the tolerance of the Kshatriyas. The Kshatriyas are able to tolerate like physical pain more, but the Brahmanas are able to tolerate the insult. If, like Dhruva, he was insulted, he wanted to seek revenge, whereas a Brahmana who's insulted won't be disturbed. Whereas the severe pain is hard for the Brahmanas to tolerate. It's easier for the Kshatriyas to tolerate. Tolerance is there with both, but the main tolerance of the Brahmana is the tolerance of because he's like free from false ego, he's not disturbed by insult. Yes.
Krishna. So we spoke about the tolerance. Now my question is about the austerity. You mentioned that actually we should reduce our sleeping and eating as well. Why most of us, when we try to do that early, maybe in the premature stage, we end up being sick, and we end up actually doing less service because we are so tired, or we are weak, or we feel weak, So what you will give like an advice for young devotees who actually maybe need more sleeping and eating than someone who is older, and Prabhupada was mentioning this, but his body was old, so he said as well that when you are young you can eat more, but when you are old you should reduce. So as well, maybe sometimes we don't give the right saying, that it can be misinterpreted by a young devotee who just joined or whatever it is. So what would you say about that?
Yat nashtos yogosti na chaikanta nashata chati svapna shilasya jagatonada charta. One who eats too much, eats too little, sleeps too much, does not sleep enough, can never become a yogi. So if you sleep too little, you'll end up making mistakes, and to make up for the mistakes will take a certain amount of time, so you don't actually come out ahead, because the mistakes you make cause you to waste the time that you gain by sleeping. I left my computer bag on 2 buses and 1 subway simply because I was too tired. And I got it back on the bus and the subway, not on the other bus. I lost it. Yeah, so, but I could. I'm just in anxiety when I travel, so sometimes when I travel I haven't slept. So we have to, by experiment, we can understand how much is the proper amount. Like if you eat too much, then makes you tired. Like now that I don't have time to take a nap before Harinam, I don't have grains so much. Because I'll be tired on Harinam, even though I like grains, and there are plenty of nice grains there. But I don't want to be tired on Harinam, so I just have sabji and salad. And it works good. I'm gonna take that habit back with me to New York. Eliminate my nap after lunch. So yeah, by experiment. And I think it's an important thing to understand that the Goswamis, they ate very little and slept very little. But that's not how they attain devotion. You know? That is an effect of their devotion. They were so enthusiastic in doing their service to Radha and Krishna, they just, slept less and ate less because they saw it was an impediment to their service. So that's how it ultimately is. And when we experience, eating too much or sleeping too much to be an impediment to our service, and we voluntarily give it up because we value our service. So, like some people do that, like they don't eat late at night because they can't get up in the morning. I can get up in the morning no matter, how little I sleep or how much I eat, because Mangalarti is one of my favorite things. I love to see their deities and dance for them. So I haven't missed Mangalarti in the 2 months I've been here because I like it so much. Because Prabhupada stressed it. Whenever he lists the duties of a devotee, the first thing is Mangalarti. He doesn't mention Gurupurs or greeting the deities. He always mentions Mangalarti and collapse. Those are like 2 most important things. If you're like too tired because you stayed up too late or you got in too late and you can't do anything else, if you can do Mangalarti in class, and you can sleep half the japa period and chant japa the other half, and then finish 3 hours later or something. It's good to go to Mangalarti. It's special, you get special energy. So we should. Some people make the mistake of thinking that austerity is part of our, increasing those things is part of our practice. But I think for the Goswamis, they just wanted to eliminate things that were keeping them from being 24 hours a day engaged in service to the Lord. So it was based on their becoming attached to their service. So we have to do, in our sadhana, we have to do these 5 things. We have to chant the 16 rounds in Palo principles. So those we can't compromise on. But as far as additional austerities, we don't need to perform additional austerities, thinking that by being more austere we're being more devoted. But we do have to watch and make sure that we're not increasing our eating and sleeping, and we can figure out ways of decreasing. Like I found out, if I don't eat the grains at lunch, I don't get tired of my meals. So that was like a realization. So by observing how we function on different amounts of eating and sleeping, we can find out what's ideal. And ideally, we'll need to see, if we think of Krishna more, we'll conquer over the mode of ignorance. Like Arjuna is because he conquered over sleep, he conquered over ignorance. And Prabhupada said he did that because he was always thinking of Krishna. So the more we think of Krishna, in the course, we're performing so many activities for Krishna. But if we actually think of Krishna while we're performing them, we'll become purified faster because we're thinking of Krishna. Because actually, the whole point is to think of Krishna. If we just perform the activities of devotional service and we're not thinking of Krishna, then we don't get the whole benefit. We get some benefit because we're doing it, but we won't get that complete satisfaction of the mind. And the more we think of Krishna, the less we'll be in the mode of ignorance, and the less we'll have to sleep. We'll see, like, I had a choice today. I slept 3 hours and a quarter, so I could try to sleep another hour and a half, and I'm only successful like half the time. The other half of the time I lie there for half an hour and I don't get to sleep. So I think, well, I just wasted half an hour. I could have chanted 6 rounds or something. And I was just lying in bed hoping to get some more sleep. So better I chant my rounds and then sleep during the japa period. When I will be really tired and I can 100% chance I'll be able to sleep. Whereas if I just try to sleep now, I may not. And then I'll just waste the time lying in bed when I could have been chanting japa, which is unthinkable because it's so boring lying in bed, not sleeping and not chanting japa. It's like too austere. So it worked out. I slept very nicely for 2 hours during japa period. Brother chanted all my rounds before Mangalarti. I thought I should leave the kirtan because then all this fired upness I got from chanting 16 rounds I can share with people. So we wish you well and determining the proper amount of sleep and rest to maximize your performance in devotions. Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki
Jai.
Mahaprasad ki
Jai. His grace, Krishna Kripa Prabhu ki
Jai.